The thing I hate about school is that whatever you're doing is usually determined by somebody else. Your greatest amount of freedom is typically your ability to choose from several predetermined options. I especially hate the good schools with their many wonderful activities. Reason is because I was that guy who was always, like, what can I want to do a different thing. And then, like, no, you have to do this thing. Why do they do it like that? I remember a long time ago my brother told me about how he went to Oxford just for like a trip, some wonderful activity. He found that the method of their graduate schools is that essentially the professors meet with you like once a month. And basically, the purpose of that meeting is hey, so what are you working on? How's it going? Basically, that. I started thinking more and more about education and realizing that I think that methodology is the ultimate method, and honestly, not particularly difficult to do. According to John Taylor Gatto, it was one of the guys in charge of the Human Genome Project who essentially followed what sounded like a similar method. He grew up on a sheep farm, this future scientist, and him and his mother studied whatever they were interested in, as long as they were interested in it, and then when they got bored with it, they moved on to something else. No predetermined curriculum, certainly no scientific curriculum. Just, hey, I have an interest, I'm going to pursue it until I feel like pursuing another interest. And you see, little kids are just like that. And then eventually you grow up and I suppose at some point you have to become boring and sit at a desk. So before you sit on a desk, you have all these wonderful, wacky adventures. I don't know, how does that prepare you for sitting at a desk? I'm not totally sure. What I do know is that just about every other discipline makes perfect sense in the context of those meetings. Logic, as far as I'm concerned, is a set of rules, almost like mathematical rules, where you simply memorize it. But memorization doesn't mean you know how to use it. But if you are in the process of coming up with some opinion and supporting it, then if you, the teacher, the professor, is aware of logical rules, you can use that as a means of analysis of somebody's opinion that they've already formed. And so logic is learned in context. Hey, come tell me what you think. Well, and then we go from there. So logic, although you could have a whole class on logic, and maybe you should, but surely if you're working on researching your own interests, putting together some project, then I can come in as your project advisor, your mentor perhaps, and say, oh, no, you got to work on this, your reasoning was faulty here. The same thing too with grammar. Oh, you wrote that paper, well, this isn't worded right. But you've already worded it, you already had something to say, and then you said it. You just need to work on how you say it. And so the purpose of those meetings is that I know something of logic, I know something of grammar, perhaps I know something of math. Those three subjects are something I would use to analyze a project like that. You can make them their own dry, boring, rote memorization type classes, take a test, and that's maybe appropriate, but being mindful of what you memorized in practice is the reason doctors eventually do, what's the word? Oh, residency. Doctors do residency. You read everything that the tradition of medicine says is the true thing, and then you kind of memorize that, and then you go meet with a doctor and actually do it for a while, and usually do it at a different school than the one you studied at, which is interesting. I don't know why they do that. Sounds kind of cool to me. But I'm realizing that Oxford method, logic, grammar, can totally be taught in context. Whatever your child's interested in, we'll call them the student, whatever the student is interested in, that you simply help them to focus their interests. You take what they want to say about it and offer a voice, an ear that's interested and which is also wants to see it presented well. And following this method over time, not only will you learn all those other things, logic and grammar and context, but you will also get good at utilizing information effectively, at research, obtaining information. And if those are the two skills you're learning, I don't know why we would need to interrupt that process constantly over and over again at 8 a.m., and then keep that process interrupted until 3 p.m. Like, you go in there and everything is what somebody else thinks you should be doing. Every single thing. I mean, even the options are ultimately chosen by those same people, and yeah, you can pick the options, but, like, where's the passion? It seems like at every step, the passion or the interest of a student is disregarded because there's more important things you have to deal with one thing at a time. Every student must know this, must know that. So I don't want to do that to my kids. And especially because when I did have free time in college, I did pursue a whole bunch of interests that had nothing to do with classes. And classes were an unpleasant, frequently unpleasant interruption for my actual interests. Just some of my ideas, I guess.